Florida Live with Jeffrey Brown. All right. Hey, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Listen, you are locked in. Get ready for it. You are locked into the South Florida Live podcast on this evening. I'm your host, Jeffrey Brown. And as we always say, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in this day. In spite of the troubles we came across, in spite of our issues, in spite of what we've faced today, God had made it. We have made it. And this is the day. So let's rejoice in spite of. Listen, let's do this. Let's come on in. Let's come on in. Let's join us. All my Facebook family, you know what to do. Let's get this thing started. Facebook, go ahead and like and share. Give me some hearts. Those that are in the comments, say hello to me. Say good evening to everyone that's coming on. Let's go. My YouTube followers, you know what to do. Go ahead and subscribe, like, and share. If this is your first time, viewing us by YouTube, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And once you do that, hit notification. And once you hit notification, hit all. And that way you'll get alert whenever we go live. How about that? Once again, hit subscribe, hit notification, all, check on all, and you'll get alerted whenever we go live. Come on, guys, let's go ahead and do that. Let's do that for me. Facebook, let's do that for me. Hey, go ahead, Facebook, go ahead and do. You need to tag at least 10 people for me. Good evening, my sister Laverne. Good evening. God bless you. Peace and blessings to you. Hey, go ahead and tag a few people. Tag about 10 people this evening. Let them know that the South Florida Live podcast is on, and we are discussing navigating through the process of grieving and understanding the signs and symptoms of depression. Man, listen, I have this. Listen, my guest on tonight, oh my God, this is his first time joining me, but you don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss the evening. So go ahead and do what you have to do and share with someone and bring them on. And hey, listen, we're going to have a conversation. But while we're waiting, we're going to stand on the rock. Don't you know that I'm standing? Yes, I am. Don't you know that I'm standing? I'm standing on the rock today. So that I'm standing. Yeah. My hope is there. On nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. Let's go, Facebook family, Facebook friends and family. You don't want to miss this episode on tonight. Please let someone know that we're live and we're on. We're going to get started in a few minutes. So go ahead and let's do that. Go ahead and do that. Invite some friends. We're talking about navigating through the process of grieving and understanding the signs and symptoms of depression. If you're like me, anyone like me, someone have gone through it. I know I have. I've been going through. I just went through it this past week with a cousin and a good friend, a real close, dear friend of mine. So I'm still having those moments. We all have those moments, but the thing about it, we have to be true about those moments. And if it's affecting you, if it's troubling you, if you're having issues with it, you need to find some help. And this is where you can find it, right here on the South Florida Live podcast on this evening, because we're going to talk about it. We're going to have discussion. So while you're standing, all right, we are standing. Good evening, everyone. Once again, good evening, everyone. Hey, Miss Roundtree, God bless you. Good evening to you. Thank you for joining the South Florida Live podcast on this evening. God bless you. God bless you. Hey, while you those that are in the comments, go ahead and share with someone that we're on and we're live, and they want to join this episode on tonight because we are talking about grieving. If you have experienced grieving and still going through your grieving period, and those that have experienced depression, we're going to cover it a little bit on this evening. So go ahead and invite someone to join us on tonight because I have a guest tonight that you guys are really going to enjoy on this evening. So go ahead, guys. Go ahead and join us. Ms. Brookins, God bless you, Lisa. God bless you. Good evening. Good evening to you. Peace and blessings to you. Um, thank you for joining us this evening. So come on, guys, go ahead and let's do it. We're going to start in a sec. We're going to get started in a sec. We're going to get started in a little bit. Okay. I hope everyone has experienced peace and blessings on today. Everyone is having a great day. Everyone experienced a great day at work, at home, wherever you have been, whatever you've been going through. I hope everybody's been had a wonderful day on today. And everybody's doing fine. Everyone made it home safely from work, and you're doing well. You're doing well on this evening. Hey, listen, we're not going to prolong it. We're going to get right into it. Um, we're going to get right into it, right into it, right into it. And I want to introduce for you that those don't know, invite you to meet this dynamic young man that I'm about to introduce, and he's going to come on and he's going to share with us. He's going to introduce himself on this evening, but I'm going to introduce you and welcome him to the South Florida Live podcast on this evening. None other than the doctor himself. A doctor himself is in the house. Dr. J.R. Thickling, man. Hey, good evening, my brother. How are you doing?
Good evening. Listen, my brother, I am just doing absolutely wonderful. I'm excited to be on your show tonight. You come highly recommended from sources that I definitely value. And man, I admire the fact of not only your bravery, but your courage to address a subject that oftentimes we brush up under the rug, that we don't talk about. And by not talking, we just continue to perpetuate the issues, oftentimes going unresolved and showing up in other areas of our lives.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate that. God bless you, man. It's an honor to have you on. When I reached out to my friend, I was asking her about, give me some suggestion of some people, and your name was you also highly recommended. And when I reached out to you, and you were just automatically to the yes, no doubt about it. It was like, yeah, hey, yeah, man, let's do it. I'm with that. I'm with that. So I do appreciate you. Yeah, and I appreciate those kind words, because my thing is I've gone through it. I think you probably gone through it, but a lot of time we go through it, and we see others going through it, but we never know just how to go through it. And not just the ones that's going through it, but also I like to try and talk to the family members or the friends that are around the ones that's going through it, and try to find answers for them. That's what this podcast is about, trying to find answers and try and draw, just give people the knowledge and the understanding of what's going on in their life. And let's be real about it. And let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what we're going through. So yeah, I appreciate you coming on and joining us. And we're gonna get this party started, if you don't mind. So I'm gonna
Absolutely.
throw up you. We're gonna start this out, man, because I know a lot of people, not only that they're going through right now, going through their time of depression. Um, and I know a lot of time it's a journey. It's a long journey through it.
Absolutely.
You're not going to get over it overnight. Um, but for those that are dealing with their grieving, that's on when it's suddenly.
Right.
It's a sudden grieving. even though, even though you had idea that it was coming, but it was sudden. And even the sudden deaths, even the sudden deaths, even though you're aware you know it's coming and it may happen, it still hits hard, and it's a tough thing because you're searching for questions and you want to search for answers. So those that are going through that, what do we say to them as a friend, as a loved one, but as someone who's counsel or trying to talk to them? What do you say to those people?
That's almost a double answer there, because in many times it depends. Sometimes there's nothing to say with words, but everything
Mhm.
to say with presence. And when I say presence, meaning simply being there, being available, lending what we call your presence gives a support to it. And so that's oftentimes one of the things that happens is the fact that people, they don't know what to say. They try to think of the right things to say, and oftentimes might say the wrong thing in
Mm,
trying to say the right thing. We are oftentimes shaped the way that we look at grief, how we look at loss, how we look at death. And so a lot of it has to do with our upbringing, the way that was brought up. Sometimes it has a lot to do with, if you would, deep culture, like the way we subscribe to our own religious practices. There are a lot of things that we hear and we may even take out of context. And so people feel like there is some type of expiration date on your grief, as if,
mm,
well, you need to get over it. They've been gone X amount of time. And so what we do understand, the right thing to say and do is, once again, to be present, to be supportive. You don't have to always say, well, I know exactly what you're going through, because although you may have also experienced loss, grief, or death, you don't know exactly what they're going through. But what you can say is that, hey, my condolences, my heart goes out to you. I can relate. I am praying for you. Those are things that you could say. You could also say that I'm here if you need someone to lean on. You know, what is it that I
right,
can do
right,
for you in this process?
right,
And those are simple one-liner. Notice none of those things require a long conversation, because it's not the amount of words that are said when a person is going through grieving. It's the matter of the support. It's the matter of the compassion, the matter of the not only sympathy, but in
right,
many cases also empathy. So
right.
those are the things that we need
Wow,
to consider inside of
wow.
it, and not feel like we have to have some, if you would, Cambridge college educated type of answer, because that's not what relieve people. That's not what bring
Right,
people a sense of well-being. It doesn't
right,
help people navigate.
right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I gave you a double for answer because you said it. Sometimes people don't need you to say anything. It's just
Right.
your presence. But
Mhm.
um we're so cliche-ish, if I will, if that's a word.
Right.
That we're so used to cliches and saying certain things that we've heard others say. How can we get people to eliminate those cliche other and one that really drive me, and you can help me with this, one that really drive me crazy and just shakes me up, is that when people are visiting someone and they're college, they're there trying to grieve, help them grieve and go through, and I know they mean well when they say it, but they make statements like, hey, listen, man, listen, I know hey, I want to be here for you, I'm here for you. And they say this, if you need anything, just let me know. They're people grieving, they're going
Right.
through. What you
Mhm.
mean? I don't know. To me, that's not a good, that I don't like that. And when you're visiting someone and you say, ask them, how you doing? Huh? How I'm doing? How can we eliminate those? I always ask them, how are you holding up?
You're right.
How are you holding up? Because how you doing? That's a simple fix.
Right.
They're not doing good. How were you doing when you were grieving? So how do we correct that for those that the loved ones that are around? If we can.
That's a good question, because it's hard to break it because it's habitual. It's habitual. How are you doing? That's a natural thing. And the sad part about it, people don't really care how we're doing. If you don't believe it, you watch yourself from day to day. When people say, how are you doing? Most people don't listen for the response. It's an assumption that you're going to say, all right. We've all done it at some point or another. I often recall, and I recite a time when I was traveling, just leaving someplace I had spoken on the West Coast there in Tampa, and I stopped to get gas or go into a convenience store, and I'm coming out, and this gentleman is approaching me and everything. It looked like, hey, he was begging, and and I said to him, I said, how you doing? Because he was kind of approaching me. I said, how you doing? And the man actually said, I'm feeling depressed. I feel like ended it all. And without even thinking, I had already said, that's good, that's good, that's good. And then I caught it. I said, hold it. What did you just say? So out of habit, people will say, how are you doing? But in the case of when someone is grieving, they've had a loss, using a phrase like, how are you holding up? It's a good phrase to use. On the other end, another good thing to say, as you're saying, is that you need to be very careful when you say, well, if there's anything that you need right now, just let me know, especially if you're not in a position to deliver that. If you're not in,
Right.
So don't give false hope, don't sell false tickets inside of that. Sometimes we ask questions like, is there anything that you need? Sometime out of our own experience, we know that people need things. I mean, who wants to think about it? Who really wants to be trying to cook, plan out a menu and all those things while they're going through this time, especially initially? So there are little things that we know that we can take care of, and we ought to be able to take care of, but don't get caught up with the cliches, and then don't say other things such as this. Well, I know God just needed another rose in heaven, so he put no. Those are things that we've learned to say. That's not necessarily comforting. I mean, it's corny after a while.
I'm with you, and I'm like, oh my God, when I hear that, I'm like, did they just say that? Because it's just so cliches that you get caught up in it, and really it does not help. It does, because I'm like you. I'm gonna do several things. I know I'm gonna do several things. That if someone is grieving, I'm going to visit them or whatever. I'm either, if I have a little money in my pocket, I'm gonna bless them with some money.
There you go. You
Or
can never go wrong there.
Water, some drinks, or I'm bringing some food.
There you go.
And a lot of times I just bring myself.
Yeah.
And don't say nothing. Just sit there. I speak to them. I let them know I'm there. Just sit there. And my presence, sometimes just your presence with folks is all they need. And that's so important to them, just to see your face. That means that you're supporting them. That alone is enough support. And that alone would help get them through. But to make some comments, like you had said earlier, sometimes it ain't nothing. Don't say nothing. If you don't know anything good to say, don't say anything at all. So just leave it there. That's been my drive for a minute. Hey, listen, for those that are grieving, going through that time, what not to do when they're grieving? What are some of the things they should not do while they're grieving?
Well, sometimes that's a slippery slope. But here's one of the things that they probably should not do. They should not try to be alone too much by themselves. In other words, an intentional withdrawal from everyone else. Although they may be trying to find a way to deal with the loss, one of the things they need to do is to acknowledge the loss and that it is having an impact on their life. One of the things that they probably should not do, but it's also a sign of them grieving, is sometimes become excessive. People just start drinking. I've seen people that say, well, Uncle Charlie, he lived life to the fullest. So, they start doing things as if they're doing it in memory of them, but this is their way that they're grieving, but they're grieving in a way that is going to be detrimental to them. And it's going to be detrimental to them. One of the things that I think that we should keep in mind, that not only should the person that's grieving should avoid, but we should avoid as people being around them, is the fact of also, avoid, if you would, piling on stories that may not be beneficial. You never want to bring up the person's worst things about that person when they're going through grief. And that is one of the reasons that oftentimes when people are going through grief and they have lost someone, that is not the time for people to jump on the bandwagon of all the deficiencies of the person that have gone on, even if the person who have gone on was not good to the person who's left behind. And so that's some of the things that friends, associate, and those individuals should not do. As far as the individual, once again, the slippery slope is that people tend to grieve out in ways that they're familiar with. All grief is not necessarily healthy grief in the way that they grieve. But the thing that we should do is, once again, be there for support, be there for support. And so in the support part is so crucial. And what I mean by that, we could talk about that all night. The support, the power of presence, it is so incredibly. We talk about this, you know, in school, clergy. Oftentimes the difference between oftentimes a chaplain and a clergy. The chaplains are kind of trained to show up, shut up, and just be there. Right. Where oftentimes, as a clergy, if you don't know it, you think that you got to have the right phrase, the right
words. Gotta have a word.
Yeah, you got to have that. And sometimes there's no words to say. It is your presence. It is the comfort. And I know that we like to try to say things that at some certain time it sounds cliche-ish. It just do. You know, even when you go, well, baby, weeping endureth but a night, but joy cometh in the morning. And we know that. But that might not be what I want to hear in this moment where I've just lost a loved one who have just died. We have not even buried them, and you're giving me that scripture. That scripture has its relevance, but it might not be the scripture right there that person need. So the thing about it, don't try to be the hero. Don't try. Your presence mean a lot. Just the fact that you're attentive to things. You know, sometimes, do you need anything? Can I run an errand for you? See, those things are very important. Can I run an errand for you right about now? You know, is there anything that I could take care of for you right now? Because when you're going through, then there's a lot going on. You're dealing with the loss, and that loss is part of where the grieving begins. You know, you're grieving. You're going through the grief. You're going through the mourning. Sometimes you're dealing with the fact, man, I can't even believe this is happening. Sometimes you're going through the unbelief stage. You're going through the fact that, wow, I wish I'd have done more. So a lot of things happen when a person is grieving. Sometimes you deal with your own guilt. And so one of the things that you said, things that you shouldn't do is don't talk yourself into more guilt and shame. Don't keep repeating your shortcomings. Oh, I wish I would have. I wish I could have. Boy, if I had only. No. Because those things there are going to only add to not only the stages that you're going to go through, but you'll find yourself beating up yourself for no reason at all.
Right. Now, I know a lot of people, like you said at one time before, about moving forward. Hey, you get over it. Is it possible that someone that's grieving can refuse to make the necessary change to move forward? Or is that possible for someone that's grieving to make the necessary change or refuse to make the necessary change? I know I'm giving you 2-4 questions right there, but you're the doctor.
So here's the case. Here's the case. The word refuse, I'm going to take the word refuse and I'm going to replace it with deny.
Okay.
Denial. Because denying is part of that grieving process. Right. You know, it's part of that whole thing that we go through. So it's denying. And so what happens inside of that, it is possible. It is possible for a person to just deny the fact that what has happened has happened. It's possible for a person not only to deny it, but it's also possible for a person to oftentimes not accept it. So when I don't accept the fact that this person is actually gone, because understanding that loss is so important. It goes back to understanding the loss, right? This is the grieving process. Understanding, understanding the loss and acknowledging that it has impact on your life. One of the problems that happens culturally is that we've been told that, baby, you got to be strong. You got to be strong for everyone. No, you don't. No, we say that you have to be strong.
Right.
But that's not necessarily true in the context of we're talking about being strong. No, sometimes you need to have the freedom to fall apart if you need to do so. When we talk about being strong, oftentimes for people in being strong, they won't immediately acknowledge the loss and the impact that it has on their life.
Mhm.
And I see it happen all the time. From a clergy standpoint, eulogize many people, way too many, have been around grieving family. And we've heard people say, you got to be strong. You got to be strong. Your mama, she wants you to be strong for the family. And what that really should mean is that your mom wants you to stand in the gap for the family, make sure that the family is intact. But it doesn't mean that mama don't want you to grieve. Mama doesn't want you to weep. No, you need to get it out. The other part is you got to allow yourself to feel, and this is part of the whole process. You got to allow yourself to experience those emotions that you're dealing with. Allow yourself to feel a range of emotions, whether it's sadness, because you're going to have sadness, it's going to come, whether it's anger, guilt, and or confusion. They're going to happen, and they don't necessarily happen in a linear fashion. And so to answer your question on a short, you could be 5 years out from the time a person have passed that was close to you. And you will still could find yourself experiencing some of those same emotions or repeat of those emotions later on. It doesn't mean that that there's something wrong with you. You're not going through clinical depression. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily, you're stuck somewhere. It is part of what happened because we all deal with loss differently. And Brother Brown, I think you and I kind of shared it briefly. I have to admit, I found myself in that position because I went through a series of loss from 2011 up to 2015. I lost about 7 or 8 family members back to back. It started with my father dying on my birthday. Okay. I dealt with that whole thing. I eulogized every one of my family members. What's the difference? Each time I was the person in that pulpit, I was the person conducting the service. I never sat on that front row. I took on the persona of the eulogist. I took on the persona of having to do all that. Father passed 2011. 2013 comes in. My older sister passed unexpectedly. I eulogized her a day before her 59th birthday. 4.5 months later, my mother passed unexpectedly. I eulogized her. Right? She dies a day after the 4th of July. Did not expect her to go. Right? We get through that. That's 2013. 2014, my brother-in-law passed in the month of March. Eulogized him. The month of May, my nephew, young man, passes.
Wow.
I fly out to Texas and I eulogizes him. And then I come in 2015 and my oldest brother passed. 59 years old, unexpectedly. Wow. Now I went through that whole process, eulogized everyone. 3 years later, I recognized things that was happening with me that gave me every sign that I've never grieved them. I had never gone through the grieving process at all because I took the persona of being that person in charge, having to be strong. And when I start seeing myself break down, when I start seeing certain things show up in my behavior, when I start feeling these waves of depression, or oftentimes for me, when I started becoming a clutter person, everything in my life was becoming cluttered. That's when I began to unpack and understand you never grieved them. You never was that person on that front row. No one never really saw the need to come to you and go, it's going to be all right. No one did because you were that person doing it for everyone else.
Right.
And so don't ever underestimate or never feel as if that when you feel that wave come, you could be doing something and something just happened and it takes your mind back to your mom. You saw someone who wore a dress like her, or someone who resembled all those things there. So it's no need to be alarmed and thinking, oh, something wrong with me. No, it's part of walk the process out. It's perfectly all right.
And I'm glad you're there. So we're gonna stay there. I guess this question keep us there. Is that a lot of times when those dates, dates. I heard you when you were saying about you were giving dates that happened
absolutely
before your birthday, and like my brother, he passed the week of my birthday. You know, and I remember when my dad passed. I remember when my mom passed. So those days. Now, What are some of the ways for us to deal with those days? I know with my dad, a lot of times I'll go out on his day, I'll go and change his head, his him and my mom. I'll
Mhm.
go change their flowers. I'll go visit on my dad's birthday, Father's Day. I'll do those things. That is that healthy? Is that healthy to do that, or is that a process that you should go through and you should take on that process of doing your grieving?
You know what? If it's healthy for that individual, it's good. You have to ask yourself the question: what do I feel when I do go and clean it off? What do I do when I do? Because that may feel good. That may feel good to you. You know, I'm visiting. Hey, I just wanted to show up and let you know I was thinking of you. And people say, well, they can't hear you. Listen here. Let me say this to you. Get it out. Have that expression. Different people do different things. I know people that still, and I have a niece who lost her husband. She lost her husband. She's very young. She lost her husband. They had two very young kids. She lost them in a car accident. And it was very tough for her. They even relocated. But one of the things they started doing to deal with that grief and that loss, especially that sudden loss, is that every year during that time of his anniversary of his death, and even on his birthday, they would do balloon release.
Mm.
They would do balloon relief. They would have conversation. They would do balloon relief. They would still, the kids would write letters to him. Now, where are the letters going? The letters aren't going anywhere, but it's therapeutic to get it out. It's therapeutic to get it out. It is you don't prove how spiritual you are or how strong you are by denying the emotions that you have when it comes to therapy. And so it is therapy. Thank you so much, Shante, Minister Shante. Thank you. It was therapy for you for you to go to your mom's grave and take flowers. And that's what it is. It's therapeutic for us. We do different things. There are some people, I love this. One guy, he said they go fishing to their dad's favorite spot.
Mm-hmm.
They go fishing to their dad's favorite spot, or they do those things in memory of that loved one. In other words, it's all right to say, listen, I can do that. Now, what are you doing? You might be commemorating their death. In other words, I want you to know that you're not forgotten. I want you to know I remember that day. My life changed forever. But that's also part of understanding the navigating process, because one of the things have to happen is that we not only do we accept the death and those things that happen, but we have to accept there's a new reality, right? The reality of life without this person, and how do I adjust? But sometimes my greatest strength is sometimes I may cherish things. Now, I'll tell you what I did with my mom and dad. All those things happened there. I had it. All of it was video. Their funerals were video. Mom, dad was special video. It's interesting that the lot we was doing streaming when it was very early on. It wasn't the same quality. But I had totally done, mastered DVDs that had not only their funeral service, but inside each one of those, we had other happy moments, family moments, things that we had done together. And it concluded with their funerals and things such as that. And that was important to me that everyone had a part of it, because not only was I thinking about myself and my siblings, I was thinking about my children and eventually the grandchildren who never would have met them. And so those are ways not only to grieve, but also to preserve their legacy inside of things.
Right. Yeah, you got to go through it. I mean, because that stuff. I mean, I used to tell people that I would go sit at my father's grave and have a conversation, a literal conversation with him, especially during some times that I was in the midst of making some decision of some things, and he was always that person who I can go to when during those times. So that's something that I did continue, and I do continue when I need it. And believe it or not, there is so amazing. Maybe not at that time, but like a day later or the next day or that night, I hear my father's voice so clearly, just giving me directions on what I need to do and how I should deal with the situation that I talk to him. Now, y'all might think it's strange, but that's how I get through it, and it works for me. It helps me, and it's got me through it. Just like this past Christmas, with my mom, I had therapy and before, and they were just telling me some things I need to do to help get me through. My mom and my mom would love Christmas. She loved all holidays. She would decorate the
Right.
house all holidays. So Christmas, I make it my business to decorate, to put up a tree, put up some lights, and do something just in honor of my mom that helps me get through it. So, like you said, Doc, it's just stuff you got to do. Continue to do it. Don't stop doing it. If you've been celebrating their birthday, celebrate their birthday now. If you've been
Yes.
celebrating them on Father's Day, celebrate them on Father's Day now. Because
I
that's
appreciate
just
what you just said because you spoke it out loud. And I'm
yeah,
glad that you did. You talked about the fact of having that conversation with your dad, but beyond that, you said then sometimes you could hear his voice clearly. Listen, I've had that to happen. I questioned for a while, and we got some real good comments over there, by the way. And thank you all for being
yeah,
with us.
yeah.
Listen, I never get questioning and asking my dad, what were you trying to tell me leaving on my birthday? What is it? Why? You could have passed between my youngest brother's birthday and mine since there was that one day in between, but why?
Right.
And I would ask questions, and I'd be quite honest with you. I grieve that, matter of fact, I wouldn't celebrate my birthday on my birthday for the next 3 to 5 years. Now, Dad, this will be 13 years since he's been gone, so the next 3 to 5 years, I wouldn't even celebrate my birthday on my birthday because of the fact I just didn't feel right. It wasn't a day. His death took precedence in my mind. And one of the things that liberated me, believe it or not, happened at the funeral service or a new friend. I did not know him very well. He was a minister. He was also into mental health. He was a therapist as well. So we had a lot of great things in common. When I received the news of his passing, I was crushed because he was so full of life. But when I attended his funeral, not really knowing, only one person I knew was his wife. I didn't know his children, but when his daughter got up and she began to speak that her father had passed on her birthday, point of identity, and she talked about how she got through it. This girl found the scripture that corresponded with the birthday, and that scripture lifted her up. And it was
Wow.
her doing that caused me to search out to do the exact same thing, and it helped me shift my perspective about my father passing on my birthday. And so we find ways to cope, and that's the thing about it. Don't be afraid to allow yourself to explore ways to do so. And don't let anyone put you in a box. Please don't do that. Don't let people traditions. Don't let people what I like to call helter-skelter, scary, you ain't being spiritual. Don't let that stuff get in your way because half the time it is the ignorance of it. The same person will tell you, baby, it's time for you to stop grieving now. No, there is no expiration on grief. Let me say that again. There is no expiration on grieving.
Yeah, you dismiss those type. You dismiss them. They can't come near me. Okay. Hey, listen. And this whole process is heavy. It's not easy. It's really not. It's not an easy process though. So those that are viewing, Doc is making it sound so on it, but it is not easy. It's not an easy process. So Doc, I'm gonna ask you this. So going through this grieving process, is it possible for someone to lose just respect for their own self, their own body?
Yeah, it is. And the reason why it is because the fact it's one of those stages of depression that they're going through. It's one of those stages that they're going through. They can lose respect for their own body because in all actuality, it could be an underlying anger or underlying guilt, an anger with themselves. Sometimes it's also an anger with the person that died for leaving me. So, and people could stop taking care of themselves. That's when we start seeing people go into that type of depression that could be somewhat destructive inside of that. So it's no longer self-care and those things there. And that's why I think we as friends and people that are around folks, we need to know how to be there for people.
Right.
And let me say this. It is so important. I was going to wait till later to mention this. There's a scripture in the Beatitudes that said, blessed are those that mourn, for they shall be comforted. And I want to bring this up in this state here because blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Mourning and grieving are the same, but they're not the same. Grieving is an internal process, right? So grieving is what we do internally. It's emotional response to that loss. It's an emotional response to the loss, and it's a wide range of emotions that come with that. Watch this. In our grieving, we also deal with, if you would, our focus is basically introspection, the processing of our emotions, the processing of what I've lost, the process of those things. That's what grieving is, the situation which that person lost. However, mourning is the external. It's the external acknowledgement of that. Listen to me. I wrote this down for you to get this. Our external expression of mourning is we play it out through having what? Funerals, memorial services. We have those things because externally it allows us to mourn and to be surrounded by other people to share in with that grief. That's why we do that, is so that others can be a part of that. Watch this. So when the Bible says, blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted, ask yourself a question. Who do you think he's talking about comforting them? Oh, I know you talk about the Lord. No, he's talking about you and I. People around are the ones who are the ones that he wants to use to what? So they can be what? Comforted. Comforted. That's why you respect when a person have gone through loss. You want to be there to what? Comfort them inside of that. And so when you're comforting a person in their mourning, that's one of the reasons that you'll hear me say a lot of times, now, folks, it's good that y'all are here today. But it's going to be in the next weeks and months that they will really need to hear from you.
That part.
Hear that phone call, come back by, say something, visit, do something in remembrance, because it is when people are then left to themselves that they go back into what? The grieving.
Right.
So that's why we have to understand the value that we have. And it's so important that we comfort when we get a chance. Comfort. Be there. Sometimes I feel guilty if I've been out of town and on my way and someone passed and they died. I missed their funeral. But you know what the remedy to that is? To go by, call, still reach out. It's not over when that person is laid to rest.
You're so right.
It's not over for the person who was lost.
Yeah.
It's not.
You're so right about it, because I mean, I still make phone calls and these individual family members have passed away. I'm talking at least about 12 or more years, but I still call them, if not once or twice a month, just to say, hey, once again, how you holding up? I want you to know I'm still, I'm continually praying for you and your family. I just made that a norm to just call up, not just be there when when all the hoopla and everything's going on. It's when people need you afterwards. And a lot of times I shy away sometimes from visiting and talking and whatever until it's over. And then I make it my business. I try and make it my personal business to contact them then after it's over, because that's when we need someone. That's, like you said, the comfort. We need that comfort. That's comfort them. That's when we need that comfort. We need people to be there for us. That's when we need that voice. That's when we need the phone calls. That's when we need the text messages. And if you agree with me, that helps you get through it.
It does help you get through it, and it is so important that people hear this. That's why I told you I'm just so, brother. I have to tell you how glad and proud I am of the courage for you to see this and deem this an important enough topic to say, no, I've got to give life to this. I've got to give audience to this, because many people are dealing with guilt even afterwards. Should I feel this way? Am I all right if I still feel this way? Right. You have to understand that it's perfectly all right to feel this way. And that even when it comes to I tell people this, I particularly have dealt with people on a council level, people who have dealt with sudden death. Okay, when I mean sudden death, unexpected, murder, accidental drowning, different things. And in dealing with those individuals, it's quite different than dealing with someone who, grandma passed and she was 97, and she's been declining for the last several years. Both of them are grieving. Both of them are experienced. All of them are lost. But sometimes, depending on how the death happened, it impacts a person differently. That is the reason why we use words such as what? Closure. We use
Right.
words such as closure because oftentimes when something has happened to someone and is unresolved and they have not arrested no one, or there's not, or there seems to be no explanation, people are grieving in a way that they're battling against themselves. It is the guilt, it's the unexplainable thing that have happened, the unresolved issues. They may feel anger come about at the same time in different things that are happening. And so what we have to understand inside of that as people, our presence is so important. Comfort is so important. This isn't a time to say, well, I'm just gonna give them time to themselves. Although we understand when a person first passed, depending on our proximity to them in relationship, we might not want to be the first person there, but we definitely shouldn't be the last person there. We want to be there. We want to be present. We want them to know, because what happens sometime with us when we have a loss and someone that means something to us, and the people that are in our circle that supposedly care, I've seen people be angry at other people, say, why wasn't you there? You didn't even come. And you know I lost my brother. You know I lost that person. And I thought you were my friend.
Right.
I mean, how do you deal with that? I mean, there's a point being made.
Right.
And so we have to understand that when we're dealing with people that are going through, we have to be empathetic. Right. And we have to also be sympathetic.
Right. Because it's you have to be careful, because not respecting them, like they would actually lose respect for themselves because they're just going to that ball. I've seen it happen. And I as a friend on here now, not calling that, but they up and down going through it solid, and had shared with me that, I'm done this, people saying this, da 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 da. And I told them, don't you stop, don't you dare stop holding on, don't you dare stop saying what you have to say, being that testimony, being that person, standing firm, because it's somebody out there that's going through the same thing that you are experiencing, and you are blessing them and helping them and continue to go on the way. Now, if that helped her, I don't know, but I
quite
think
sure it did.
But I think it is because she's on fire. Yeah, she's on fire. She's just that yeah. So we have to be careful, because we can push people into that place where they lose respect, or they go into that hole,
Right.
just saying, just not supporting them. That's why I'm not trying to brag on myself. That's why I try and make it my business. It ain't every day, but every other day or once a month, I'm checking on somebody that's gone through that grieving process, because that's when they really need it. Now, we had 7. You're gonna come back, brother. You're gonna have to come back. With these last few minutes, I need you to talk to those that are going through their grieving process, not even just now. Some that's been going through it for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 15 years, some 20 years, that still are going through it, and they don't know how to navigate through it. So express to them, or share with them, or share with my audience, those that are watching, that's going through it. How do they? How do I? And I'll speak for me too. How do we navigate through this grief process? How do we do it? Give us some, some
And
points.
so first of all, I'm going to walk through it, because there's 7 things I want to say. Well, and I'm going to say it real quickly. Is this? It's the fact that I'm going to go back to understanding the loss, acknowledging the loss, and that it has an impact on your life. Don't expect for your life to remain the same when you have had someone or something in your life that has been removed. So you want to do that. You want to allow yourself to experience these emotions. It's all right. You may go from anger to guilt. You may go to frustration, confusion, but it's perfectly all right. The third thing I'm going to say is support. Don't be afraid to reach out for support. Seek support from really loving friends and family that really care. Even support groups of therapy helps. I tell people all the time, don't be afraid of therapy. Therapy is absolutely good for you. Listen, there is safety in a multitude of counsel. And I'm going to say, when you're seeking support, a lot of times with children that lose parents and lose individuals, they need support. So they have a place called Camp Grief, Camp Grief. Go through some type of therapy, get support for yourself. There are a lot of places that would offer therapy and grief counseling. I have a few friends that are actually specializing in that part. Then here's the tough part, but be willing to create a new normal, because either you will voluntarily create a new normal, or you will involuntarily, meaning not being mindful, find yourself stuck almost like Groundhog Day. But be willing to create a new normal. All right. Establish new routines sometimes and find meaning and purpose in life that way. Honor their memories. Find healthy ways to honor their memories. I have a dear friend that's on right now with us, Dr. Alicia Jordan. I admire her inside of what she went through with her losing her husband some years ago. She has written this incredible book that have allowed her to express. But I think that as I watch from afar, I'm watching her just blossom in an area that really shows what can happen as you are still going through this grieving process. Then the part is moving forward. Don't feel guilty about moving forward, even if you gradually move forward. Don't let no one push you. Don't let nobody rush you to move forward, but definitely gradually move forward with life, keeping the memory of the loss alive. Those are things that I'm going to say that you could do in navigating through the grieving process. That is what's so important. Because once again, that is a process that has no expiration date. And it's not always necessarily linear.
Yeah. Wow. You guys heard it. I told you this was going to be impactful on this evening with Dr. Thinkley. Man, listen. Listen. I'll thank her personally when I see her. I'll probably shoot her a text, Ross. Text is coming, Ross. A text is coming to you. I appreciate it. I thank you so much. This is great. And someone just says, thanks for being transparent. That's a part of it. I'm so learning. Transparency is a part of it.
Yeah,
that's a part of it. That's a part of us comforting one another, as you said, where I know, and that's that, and this is why the Lord, I believe the Lord, I know the Lord gave me to do this, because I'm the person that if I'm going through something, I know I just have this. I'm always, people call me the encourager, but I just feel like if I'm going through it, someone else is going through it. Yeah. And if it hurt me and I'm going, and I had to, I want them to know the path and what I did to go through it. It wasn't no problem when I started having anxiety attacks. I went to the doctor. Exactly. I didn't have these anxiety attacks for 6 months. And then I'm like, oops, okay. No, I started having anxiety attacks, and that's unusual for me. So I had to go get that checked out. And from me going to get that checked out, come to find out I was in a deep depression. But so they, referred me to a counselor, a therapist, and come to find out I had slipped into depression. Didn't even know it. Didn't know it. Didn't see it. Didn't know it. But I said, you know what? I'm going to the doctor. And when my doctor referred me to a therapist, I'm like, okay, I'm going. Because I didn't want to feel the way I was feeling. And I vowed that I would never, I don't know if that's good to say, Doc, but I vowed I would never go back to experiencing that feeling again. So if I felt that and how I felt, I didn't want anyone that's associated with me, around me, no friends, no loved ones, my viewers, to experience that, what I experienced. But if you're going to experience, I wanted everybody to get some help. And I wanted people to hear it from professionals. I'm not a professional in this area. I wanted you to hear it from professionals and learn from them and take the steps that you need to take to get through it. It's not going to end.
Right.
So don't let people tell you It'll be no, it's not. I just told my cousin his mom, which is my cousin, she just passed away. And one thing he said, cuz you ain't tell me this hurt was gonna be like this. I'm like, yes, I did. Because I told you got to walk through it. You're gonna have to walk through it. You're gonna have to go through it. You're gonna feel it. You're gonna have your ups. You're gonna feel it. You're gonna have to go. Yes, I did. And you got to go through it. So
you do.
Thank you, Doc.
But you know where I admire you at, and I think your audience is definitely saying this. You have two men that are talking about an area that requires transparency and vulnerability. It is important to keep that in mind because of the fact, once again, cultural stereotypes that say, well, think about real men don't cry. Are you kidding me? My mother was my very best friend, my single greatest inspiration. When I felt lost when she left and I'm not supposed to cry, that right. is under what heaven is that even
exactly.
logical? And so I say to you this, because you brought up the word transparency. And here's something I want to give everyone. Sometimes we have to have the courage to even stand, to go through.
Yeah.
But also keep in mind, you cannot get to courage without vulnerability.
Right. Wow.
You cannot get to courage without vulnerability. I don't care who we are. Being vulnerable, being able to admit that. And so as we're going through, and I did read someone come and said that someone tried to tell them, stop posting your baby. No.
And Yep.
No. Keep posting.
And you better keep posting. You better start back. You better start back posting.
Yeah.
You better you better start back posting.
They'll be all right. They don't have to look at it. Look, you do so. I saw that happen because my sister passed before my mother. And my nephew, every day he was putting things up about his mom pictures. And every day it would seemingly be excessive. And I even remember saying to myself, I said, okay, I'm going to check on him. On the day that my mother died, which is his grandmother, and when he made it up to the hospital, I met him in a solarium after he had came and saw, and I put my arms around him. I said, today, we're part of the same fraternity. He said, what are you talking about? We both are sons without our mothers. Yeah. And for him and me, it was a healing process and a connection that just became alive because we both was now experiencing the exact same thing. And so we want to always encourage you to do so. Understand this. Don't let no one talk you out of therapy. And getting therapy doesn't show a lack of faith. Faith has nothing to do with this in this case here. Matter of fact, you need to understand, once again, this is the time that you need therapy. Help you walk.
Hey, listen, y'all, this has been great. Hey, thank you, Doc, for coming on, joining us on this evening, man. I appreciate you. I love you, man. This won't be the last time that y'all see Dr. Thickley on this show. Trust me. We're going to work that thing out. But hey, y'all, if you enjoyed this show, and you want to support it, you want to be a supporter of it, you want to enjoy it, you want to just bless us and donate towards this podcast, because there's some things that we're trying to do greater and bigger. Our information is there. Our Zelle, you can Zelle us, the South Florida Live Show at gmail.com, the South Florida Live Show at gmail.com. And you can also hit us up at Cash App, $ Power of Glory 777, $ Power of Glory 777. Listen, y'all, I thank you for joining us, and I hope this has blessed you. I hope it's been a blessing to you. Once again, I want to say thanks to my friend, my brother for life now, Dr. J.R. Thickley, for joining me on this evening. It's been an honor. Hey, as I always tell you guys, we gotta go. I'll pray for you. You pray for me. Hey, y'all, God's going to change all this thing. All right. God bless you. God peace. God keep you is my prayers.
Email your idea for show topics to the South Florida Live Show at gmail.com. Thank you for tuning in to South Florida Live with your host, Jeffrey Brown.